Hello everyone, welcome back to the TJOmega channel for day 1299 of our daily content grind. It's the beginning of the month, you know what that means. It's time for a monthly Q&A video. By now you should all know the rules. If you want to have me answer anything you want, as long as it's within YouTube TOS, leave it in the comments below and make sure to keep a few things in mind. Number one question per person so we can get everybody in. Number two, keep it to a short, punchy answer type questions. So I'm not going to come up with entire series concepts or casts of characters or anything. Nothing that's going to make me stop and go, please don't ask about Gundam or Gun Megatron. I am done with those topics. And for the most part, just keep it TOS friendly. Let's make sure everyone has a good time hearing the questions, and I have a good time answering. So, common sense stuff, right? So just be fair, just have common sense, and let us begin. Death Stars versus all the Dinobots. Who wins? Probably the Dinobots. Death Stars is powerful, but sheer numbers, and Dinobots are more powerful than your average Transformer, so I'd give that to them pretty easily. Do you feel like Bulkhead has kind of eaten Brawn's lunch, or at least did for a time? So there was that Brawn toy that was retooled from Bulkhead that made him look like he ate Bulkhead's, it made him look like he ate like Brawn's lunch, dinner, and breakfast. I don't think he's necessarily eaten Brawn's lunch. If anything, I think he's eaten Ironhide's, because he's kind of taking Ironhide's spot of like the big powerhouse of the team. I don't see it as Brawn though. Brawn was always about like super strong, but like short stack, he's the short king kind of. So I don't think necessarily it's eaten Brawn's lunch or did so for a time. Brawn is just a weird one to fit in. We haven't really seen him take spotlight in any fiction since G1. Kind of weird. Of all the figures known to have a fatal flaw, GPS, shattering, transparent plastic, rotting steel parts, etc., which one would you most like to see reissued with proper materials? I mean, the one clear plastic toy that bothered me the most was, weirdly enough, Beast Machine's Skyhammer. I really, really liked that toy for some weird reason. All clear plastic made me sad when that toy came out. I looked at that like when they did Universe Overbite and they packed him with a Repugnus. Like, why? You had another shark. This could have been a Shark 2-pack, and you could have given me like that toy without translucent crap on it. Of any of them, honestly, probably like the G1 Black Zarak. I would love if they could reissue that toy in general. But or Leozak or Lio Kaiser, like, to get those toys without GPS would be awesome. Like, I saw my first Black Zarak in person at TFCon last month. It's a beautiful thing to see. I would never risk owning one. How many blasts could Sound Blaster blast if Sound Blaster could blast sounds? Now, he can blast sounds. He does play tapes. That said, 2 at a time. We know this. He's capable of 2 at a time. If Unicron had heralds similar to the concept of the 4 horsemen, death, war, famine, pestilence, which bots would he pick to fill those roles? There's something of a roster to pick. The truth is, Unicron has had sentinels like this. In Japan, they were the Blentrons, what we had as Fusors here for Beast Wars. It kind of fills that slot. Kinda. I mean, for that, I would have to go through, like, who makes sense for all those roles. And honestly, for death and war, you could come up with things like if it's going to be like Galactus heralds where they can be corrupted, then like you're looking at like Grimlock would be a great horseman of war. You're looking at like Shockwave as a horseman of death. Something like that. Problem is, famine and pestilence, those are very difficult to choose for Transformers because there's not a whole lot of Cybertron illnesses, And there's really no Cybertron famine. There's no character I can think of that represents famine amongst Transformers. So probably not. Favor Sentinel Prime using Plague, Pestilence. I try to keep it within one universe, though. You know, we know what happened to Unicron in the Bayverse. Do you think the Bach were descendants of the swarm like Larry DeTillo had theorized, or do you think they were just some random aliens? I mean, it's all, you know, it's only canon if it happens on screen, right? You know, even comic books after that are viewed as alternate universes. So in canon and Beast Wars, they're just mysterious random aliens. And that's all they were really meant to be. You know, being an advanced evolution of the swarm was Larry's way of like including them in the G1 mythos, and I think it was misguided because it made the placement of Beast Wars really confusing, whether or not it was following the Marvel comic or the cartoon. And honestly, it didn't make sense, you know, like the whole idea he had was that the swarm wiped out everything. Like they wiped out the entirety of planet Earth. And like Beast Wars was technically post-apocalyptic. No, the swarm was seen wiping out one city. They were seen surrounding the planet, but not actually devouring it. There's nothing in the fiction that says they did. So I think Larry's idea for the Bach being the swarm is just misguided because I don't think he fully understood what was going on in the G2 comics. It defies what his explanation, his expanded explanation for the Bach defies canon, so I don't really count it. Do you prefer David Kaye as the voice of Optimus or Megatron? Hello from an Italian fan. Hello in Italy. So, Megatron, easily. It's a fantastic vocal performance to be able to do both. David Kaye is one of the few voice actors I think is talented and versatile enough to do both. But I do love him as Megatron. I really do. Like his voice, he has such a charisma to his voice as Megatron. Favorite design from Megatron's fusion cannon. Trying to think of all the variations. Like most are just variations of the G1. Truth be told, if there's any fusion cannon I like, it's Galvatron's. I think Galvatron's looks the coolest. But I'm more to the old school style of it. You know, like I'm not big on like primes, for instance. You know, if I'm just to come up with another example of like a very different style of that arm cannon. Oh, 4-paragraph comment below. Oh boy. That's the one thing I keep forgetting. Oh my god, dude. Whew. Yeah, okay. This is a lot, but from the quick glance, I'm not going to get into it here because it's a heavier topic. But we'll go into the question, the actual question of it. Given how much negativity is unfortunately being pushed by social media nowadays, do you ever have that feeling certain people within fan bases tend to focus so much on every bad thing that happened to said franchise, they tend to forget the good that came out of it? So, Glide. The entire reason why I created Plastic Addict as my main original video series is because the fandom was so loud and obnoxious about the things they hated in toys, and they're so quick to call a toy bad, even though it really only suffers from a few flaws. You know, and I thought, okay, let's do Plastic Addict, the toy version of the angry video game nerd. I'll be honest, that's where it came from. Let's do that to kind of show what a bad toy really is, so maybe people give these other toys a break, you know? But yeah, like, the thing to remember is, like, when people are upset or annoyed, they're far more likely to be vocal because they're looking for validation. They're looking for other people who kind of, like, feel the same way. So, yeah, like, they push a lot of negativity these days, and unfortunately, it does sell better. I hate to say it, but it does. It gets more attention. You know, getting people angry tends to get traction and views a lot more than making them happy. And I don't like that that's kind of how social media works, or content creation in general. I'm sure if I was old school Plastic Addict, just like thrashing every toy that I came across, I'm sure this channel would be doing a lot better, but I'm not about that. I want to be happy about this franchise. I want to be positive about it. Oh boy. Okay. Long paragraphs. I'm gonna put something in the rules about please keep it short and concise. Because remember, this is gonna be a 2-hour video at least. I need to be able to keep it as short as possible. So yeah, so a TLDR in all of these would be fantastic. Because I don't have time to read entire paragraphs from everybody. See, one of these beam saber type weapons, perhaps the most severely underrepresented kind of weapon in Transformers. Which is basically, why do you think that's the case? Ironically, yeah, the only one we had that I can think of offhand was Megatron's in the '86 movie. Frankly, laser swords are so much a Star Wars thing. I feel like Transformers intentionally avoids them. Clearly they could. We have Energon axes, Energon flails, all kinds of things with Energon, but not something that would equate a lightsaber. So I think it's not, I think it's intentionally dodging a much bigger, more well-known franchise so they don't look derivative. Like, that's the best guess that I have. You know, there's, you know, Transformers tend to have like normal swords. And, you know, and some of them are actually really cool and kind, almost iconic. So I don't think the franchise has really done too bad without the laser sword. Which type of alt mode do you think works for fembots like RC and Chromia, car or bike? I think they can be either. I don't think honestly any alt mode has any kind of gender bias or like this is the alt mode that works better for female characters. I think it depends on how you design the robot mode. You know, if you design a bulkier RC that doesn't need to have everything hanging off of her backpack, yeah, make her a car. Make her a truck. Make her a garbage truck for all I care. As long as you're designing that robot mode to make the bulk work. That's all I ask. So you can make any alt mode. I don't think car or bike really is a thing here. It really just kind of depends on how the robot's designed. Favorite Combaticon Redeco Ruination. Specifically the Japanese one. I have the Japanese Ruination sitting in my shelves. The irony is I had the Unite Warriors Ruination and ended up selling it off because I kind of got bored of that one. But for whatever reason, I had the opportunity to get the OG, bought it, still love it. I think there's actually a couple guns on it missing. I have to double check it. So happy you read my question. Thank you. Yeah, I try to read every one of them. I know because of the way that YouTube like loads in the comments, not all of them come up. I do apologize for that, but I try. This involves an idea for my own take on Transformers in fan fiction, but would like to see a future interpretation of Transformers tackled as reskinned idea of man-made Transformers by having many of them be a joint effort between humans and Autobots to bolster their ranks by cloning protoforms. Whew. That's complicated. That's complicated. I'm not sure, like, I think the Autobots and then thusly the Decepticons would be fascinated if they could find a way of creating protoforms on Earth. That's something that we haven't really touched on. The closest that has come was Earthspark, where the planet Earth had its own native Cybertronians. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not entirely sure if that would work for like man-made Transformers, more along the lines of Nightbird. Because that's going to be like a really like oddball thing. Like I think Optimus Prime would be okay. I think he'd be okay with the humans figuring out some way of defending themselves against Decepticons because, you know, Autobots aren't going to be around every single place they could attack. But I'm not entirely sure that he would be okay with like cloning protoforms. I think that might push Optimus's moralities a little bit. Friendly Scheduled Conflicts fan returns to ask, what has been your unluckiest dice set? I'm not sure about like lucky or unlucky. I did recently get a set of Dragon Eye dice, like the ones with the like the ones where they have like dragon eyes floating in oil inside them. You know, so that they always look up at the number that gets rolled, and they look super cool. I do little play tests and play rolls with those on my desk from time to time. I don't think it's ever come up a 20. I'm not ever using it at the table. They are simply like goofy little oddball dice that I just happen to like think, oh, that looks neat. But the dice themselves, I know for fact, are not rollable at a table. They would be way too unbalanced and they would not give me the rolls I want. So I leave them off. I leave them off. But yeah, that one is not rolled a 20 yet. See in here, yeah, see there's YouTube just tried to like load in a bunch more and it kind of like did a weird skip thing. If Wild Wheel was in Shattered Glass, should he be a samurai? No, he should be a sheriff. You know, I don't think you change Wild Wheel into a different type of old-timey warrior. I think you just play with it like he's a desperado, in like actual cyberverse fiction. But if you're going to make him, Shattered Glass and heroic, he'd be a sheriff. He'd be a lawman. He would essentially take the place of Prowl. Let's see, imagine who would win the ultimate thumb war between Tenga Sword from Gojuger and Gigatron, aka RID Megatron. I'm not entirely sure. I have not watched the newest Sentai enough to really know what the power scaling is for their mecha, so I can't really speak on that. It'd be a hilarious sight, though. Hello, TJOmega. Is there anywhere I can DVD copies of the Headmasters, Master Force, and Victory that don't sell for $1 bajillion on the aftermarket? I'm sorry to say that's pretty much the only way to go about it. So Shout Factory did release those series subtitled as official DVD releases. I think they are all long out of print. This is one question that I get a lot, which is like, hey, where can I go buy this or that? And I'll be honest with you, there's no magical shop. There is no magical underground store where all these out of print toys and DVDs, comic books, and all that are sold. You're going to be going the same places that everyone else is going, If it's not Walmart or Target anymore, or Big Bad or Entertainment Earth, where my code will save you 10% off on anything in stock, then you're going to check Amazon or you're going to check eBay, and the aftermarket price is going to suck, but it's all you're going to be left with because that's all any of us are left with. Like, there's no secret. There's no, like, go here to get a good deal. It's either currently available or it's on eBay or Mercari. That's it. Which would G1 Soundwave's cassette bots work as minicons if he was in Armada? In Armada, minicons would have to actually turn into something besides cassettes. So it would be an idea of Soundwave if Soundwave's going to be present, then he's going to need to be something that can actually like accommodate for whatever those minicons are. Like, he would have to be their partner. And they absolutely could if you use them as like little inspirations. So, you'd have to come up with vehicle modes for Rumble and Frenzy. And then the others would be the alt modes, and then you'd have to come up with robot modes for Ravage, Laserbeak, Ratbat, etc. You could do it, though. You could absolutely do it. Had a story idea where Megatron realizes his wrongdoings and allies with the Autobots. The power vacuum would leave the Decepticons filled by an alternate universe Megatron who embodies who our Megs would be if he doubled down rather than admitted his wrongdoings and worked to fix it. Which design do you think that evil Megatron should have? Debating using the G2 green and purple Megatron X from Cyberverse. Marvel comic colors with a black helmet and accents are considered, instead using universe displaced Galvatron. So you are basically describing like a Megatron X style situation. where like another universe Megatron that is even worse than normal Megatron has appeared. Also, I absolutely despise these AI answers. YouTube, knock it off. I like to like click them and go like, this sucks, and I can't do it. But no, honestly, if I were you, like, I wouldn't try to use an existing design. You know, if you're going to use an existing design like the G2, don't stick to the green and purple. Do your own thing. Do the G2 but in Megatron X colors, so like black with like bright red line accents, like something that looks kind of wicked, so people could still imagine it when they're reading your story, but still has its own flair. What do you think of this alternator inspired multi-pack idea of mine? Earth Mode Prowl retold as Shock Blast, Earth Mode Hound retold as Swindle, Earthrise Sunstreaker repainted as Dead End, Earthrise Trailbreaker retooled as Optimus Prime, Legacy Knockout retooled as Grimlock. So you do get a little bit tricky here, because you would really want Jazz in there as Maester, and Jazz has his figure that's already pretty spot on for that, and that's what you would use for Shock Blast, but that's not the Prowl mold. So you're going to have a disconnect there. And I know that leaves out Grimlock, and I wouldn't mind having Grimlock in here, but I feel like 2 and 2 is your sweet point. Like, if I was doing this, because like, keep in mind, like, Target really likes those 4-packs. I would do the Earth Mode, smokescreen as alternator smokescreen. I would probably do I would do Hound as Swindle. I would do Sunstreaker as Dead End, and then and then if I'm gonna leave it like that, then I would probably end up doing Jazz as Maester, or I would do him as Grimlock, one or the other. That would be the way I would go about it. And then if it worked out, then we can talk about others, because yeah, Trailbreaker would actually work as a weird Optimus Prime. Okay, what would you think of a Diaclone 5-pack to finish off the ones we didn't get? It could be Loud Pedal, Red Mirage, Yellow Tracks, Red Skids, Red Buggy, like they did for the Autobot pack. My only concern with packing so many Diaclone repaints into one box is that that's a lot of figures that are super obscure with only niche interests. I think your best bet for releasing Diaclone anything would be either to sprinkle them into other lines, like we got what was it called, was it Burnout? We got Burnout in Velocitron. That's supposed to be like one of the Diaclone skid colors that worked. So like you sprinkle that in, so like Red Mirage and Loud Pedal would be in like a capsule line along with a bunch of other really popular characters, but they only be like one per case. You keep it limited, because Diaclone repaints traditionally don't sell very well. So I don't think you 5-pack it, because that's taking a huge risk on a lot of niche characters. I think you're better off putting him in here or there, but a lot of those molds still have life in them. A lot of those molds are still viable. You could absolutely get it done. If Thing from the Addams Family had a Halloween costume, would it be Megatron's hand mode or the Infinity Gauntlet? Why is everyone talking about RID Megatron's hand mode this month? I mean, I think the Infinity Gauntlet makes more sense, honestly. Like, a Halloween costume, you want it to be recognizable, and that one works pretty well. What animal would you want Star Saber to be if he was in Beast Wars? That's tricky. That is really tricky, because I don't think there's any, like, you would have to get mythical. Like, you'd have to get mythical, like in the Griffin kind of territory, or like a rock. Like, if you know your D&D, a rock, just like basically just a gigantic bird. I don't think there's any like really appropriate, because he's a spaceship. He needs to be a flyer. but the biggest you're going to get for a flyer is like an eagle, and that's not even remotely close to what he is, what he should be transforming into. I would almost say, like, break the tradition of having like dinosaurs as Predacons and make him like a Quetzalcoatlus, like a gigantic flyer. That'd be as close as I could think of, honestly, especially if we're sticking to animals that exist or existed. With all of the various universes generations pulls from, which designs incarnations they should revisit? There's so many cool and interesting designs and characterizations that have not been visited for a while. At this point, I am a really big proponent of bringing back the Viacons from Beast Machines. I know it's Beast Machines, but at the very least, if they did a Leader Tankor, a Voyager Jetstorm, and then a Deluxe Thrust, they would sell. To just do those three, it would sell. Absolutely. In your opinion, what's the rarest toy in your collection? Okay, so I do own prototypes, which, there's only a handful of those in existence, and that's kind of precious. I have the electromagnetic Soundwave from Animated. That one's really rare. But I'm thinking I also have, like, if we're talking like rare for monetary value, I have the Combat Belt Batman from the original animated line. It's the one Batman toy in that line, like in the normal like 4-inch figure, that just looks like Batman from the cartoon, which thus makes it a very rare and valuable toy already. But mine is also signed by Kevin Conroy. The last time I checked, it could sell for $1,500, but that was when Kevin was alive. I don't know how much it would sell for now, and frankly, I don't want to look. Because I don't want that temptation to float over me. Do you think the Bulkhead toy from Legacy would have been better received if it was simply labeled as Bulkhead instead of specifying that it's the Prime version of the character? I think that would have mitigated it a little bit, but it also doesn't help that it was released alongside a Deluxe RC that was also a pale imitation of the Prime design, and that one was unmistakably attempting to be Prime RC, even if they didn't label it that way. I think it still would have drawn the comparison. I think it still would have had that like complaint behind it that like that's not Bulkhead. That's absolutely not Bulkhead. Go to comfort food. I mean, I'm trying to think of like if there's a food I go to where it's just like, okay, I just need to have a it's been a day, I just need to have this. In my head, I think the easiest answer is just chicken tenders. But honestly, if I have like a rough day, like if I just have like a rough day, or if I'm expecting a rough day or something of that nature, like I will go to a Dairy Queen, I will get a chili dog and a mint Oreo Blizzard, and just like I will just be sent for like half an hour while I have that. I think that's like my go-to, like, okay, I just need a little bit of comfort in me right now. Watching one of your videos made me think of this, but as G1, G2 like Ravage and Ratbat have gotten full unique robot modes in the past, off the top of your head, which other of the cassette boss would you like to see get the same treatment? Kind of want to see the Autobot cassettes get one since we got to Decepticons. I think yeah, like, I really wouldn't mind that happening to, like, say, like, I feel like the moment for that was missed when they didn't try the same Ravage trick with Transmetal Rhinox to make Ramhorn. That would have been pretty cool. Like, Transmetal Rhinox in those colors, And the Armada one's colors come close, but it's at least in beast mode, but not quite. Not quite. That would have been fun. They could have gotten away with that. The other two you're missing, by the way, Evan. Laserbeak and Buzzsaw also got the same treatment. They were repainted from Energon Dive Bomb. So it's been a few more than you think. And Overkill as well. So it's actually not too many left. But yeah, I would go for that. Like I would love to see that. But yeah, Ramhorn would be good. Man, thinking of sound waves, I realize that like just about all of his main cassettes have actually gotten it. And weirdly enough, if I keep going up the food chain here, it's Slugfest. That's the first one we get to that does not have any modern figure. Or at least any updated figure with a robot mode. Okay, question. I never got access to the printed comics of Transformers. Do you think they would succeed if they were to do them for TV? Let's see. Also, just subscribe to Blue Sky because of Magnetar. And they're asking, okay, and there's a question here for fans of Magnetar. Okay, I'll answer that really quick because he's actually asking for help there. So we'll go ahead and cover that. But honestly, I'm not sure the comic books would work for television because the pacing for the comic books is like breakneck, because the comic books had to use all the Transformers, especially if we're going into like the UK comic books. They had to use literally everybody. There's almost no missing Transformers from the G1 comic book run, because mandated, everyone has to be used because everyone has toys that we're trying to sell. To work as a TV series, probably not. And for the G-Axis, like the G2 run, if you abbreviate it, you might get an interesting movie out of it, but that might be it. I don't think it would work as like a TV series. You know, because honestly, like the G2 comic book really doesn't have a lot of story. Like you could tell that as a 3-act story and be completely fine. Since Soundwave and Blaster no longer turn into a Sony Walkman or boombox, what other options besides a rectangle that fits in their chest would be a good modern option for their Minicon partners, weaponizers, armorizers, something like that? So that's the question, and I feel like the answer lies somewhere in Prime, because I think the Prime take on Soundwave works really, really well for that Laserbeak to just be a component of his chest. So if you could figure out how to do that for all of his chest minions, you know, like if that front chest, that front box that is just like what Soundwave's chest looks like, if that actually came off to turn into Ravage, and then underneath it was like Laserbeak that was just sitting there like the same way as Soundwave, or Prime Soundwave, just like built into the chest, and then you have like Rumble and Frenzy as like two halves of his back. It's like that would probably be the way you would do it. You would have to do it for like modern options, you know? Like otherwise they would have to be something similar to like you said, weaponizers. Or, and this is a bad example, what was I about to think of? The Micromasters, like the modern ones that also had like weapon modes. You know, so yeah, you'd have to get clever. You'd have to get clever to make the minions if you don't have the tape deck thing. What's your yearly opinion on Rail Racer? Really good looking combiner. Probably one of the most advanced combiners of like the first half of Transformers. We will probably never see it again because A, scaling wise, it would be like Titan size. And I don't think you're going to get any. And two, the originals sold so badly, I think Hasbro is scared of ever doing another Bullet Train Transformer again. So it's pretty much the same as my opinion is every year. So every Hazard, we got some repaint potential. There are Unicron, Shattered Glass, Star Saber, Dark Saber, Deathsaurus, Red Geist, Omega Prime, Universe Colors, Lio Kaiser, Rescue Force. Which of these would you buy if any of these were to happen? Honestly, I think the go-to for Unicron is actually the Energon color scheme. I know it's G1 Unicron, but like that is actually like a pretty good color scheme. If I was going to get any of these, honestly, we're going to be honest here. Red Geist is not an option because that goes into a Brave character. And while they use the toy for Transformers, it is Sunrise or whatever company bought the Sunrise assets. I don't know who actually owns Brave at the moment. But the Red Geist appearance, the visual of it, that is not Hasbro or Takara owned. So they could not do a Red Geist. If I was going to go with any of these, it would either be the Rescue Force because that one's the most amusing to me. You know, to finally complete that that busted combiner they did back then. Or probably the Omega Prime. Now, here's the thing. I wouldn't buy the Ultra Magnus because his universe colors are literally the same toy but black instead of blue. If I was going to go with that, it would be just the Yellow Splendid Convoy. And that's because her stature, her standing has been raised considerably thanks to her reuse in the Takara Legends comics. Like, I think that would be the go-to. I think that would be the one. I'm sure out of all these, that's the one everyone would want. What is the best G1 combiner limb? God, I gotta think of all the combiner limbs now. I'm gonna say aerial bots and stun cons are out immediately because a lot of those are just kind of plain Jane. So they feel very samey. You get a little bit more variety in the rest of them. I think C-cons are a little bit too complicated. That might be the same for the Terracons now that I think of it. For ones that I have personally messed with, I would probably go with Afterburner from the Technobots because he does things a little bit differently than the others. And I think like his transformation is one of the more interesting ones, even though he is just like one of those. I think he's just a really fun, neat figure all around. You know, and the fact that he, that works as a limb bot too, that's just icing on the cake at that point. If we got a Voyager leader or Commander class collaborative figure based on a video game villain or final boss, which of these baddies would you pick? All right, what are we going for? Let's see, Ganondorf or Ganon, Bowser or Giga Bowser, Sweet Tooth or Dark Tooth, Metal Sonic, Mecha Sonic, whatever you can think of. Knowing you, probably Kefka, Sigma, Dr. Nefarious, Tron Bon, Mother Brain, Lavos. Jack, you've been paying attention. You've really been paying attention. Honestly, I don't even think it would be Metal or Mecha Sonic. I would want it to be something of Dr. Robotnik's, I think. Because we now we actually have those Sonic collab toys coming out. So it would make sense to do a Robotnik or an Eggman to go with them if you could pick a vehicle that would work. He's got tons of them to pick from. And if you could like Headmaster, his like little like space pod, his little pod, like a little robot version of him in there, and then like that transforms into like the Headmaster of like the robot mode. Chef's kiss. Also, Mischief Makers, really? Jack, you have really been paying attention if you know my love for Mischief Makers. Yeah, so the final boss in that game is literally a spoof on a Megazord. It's one of the coolest final bosses I've ever fought. It's a really cool fight. And yeah, if that was ever a toy, heartbeat. I would be the first in line. Never gonna happen. I can't even get Mischief Makers on Nintendo Online. If Transformers ever brought back the Pretender gimmick, do you think it'd work better to unite it with the Headmasters, effectively inverting the G1 cartoon depiction, instead of humans wearing the Transformer armor to allow them to become heads of Transformers that slightly... Whew. Whew. Okay, I don't think uniting it with headmasters is going to be the way to do it. If you're going to do like a modern pretender gimmick, basically the entire torso would have to be hollow and then fit the pretender into it from the back. No shell to close it up. Like the shell would just be like an independent action figure, like Voyager scale. And then you would have like a toy that's somewhere between core and deluxe that just like folds up into a box, you know, like Beast Box style and crams into the back. But to do that, I think would require something in order to make it a little bit more interesting. You know, like I would feel like the pretender inside would have to form some aspect of the robot. Like either the shell itself has some kind of like transformation element, like it turns into like a vehicle of its own or something. Simple vehicle nonetheless, but the only way to like connect it and snap it firm in robot mode is if the pretender bot is inside for everything to click into, or if the pretender provided like the head of the shell. That would be it. But then you get away from the idea of like two action figures at the same time. It's gonna get tricky. It's very, like we've talked about like how to do modern pretenders. It's exceptionally difficult. Is there any G1 toy you think does its gimmick better than the modern versions? That is tricky. That's really tricky. Because a lot of the modernizations of some of these characters just don't work. Like a lot of some of them, they don't have those gimmicks. They don't have those gimmicks or anything. Weirdly enough, probably Astro Train, because like the train mode is so smooth on the G1 Astro Train, and the shuttle mode, it's a little bit off here and there, but otherwise like it really does work as just like a modern like a shuttlecraft. It works. It looks good. Every time I see a modern take on Astro Train from Hasbro and Takara, something is screwed up, you know? Like, I love the classics one. I think that's a fun toy. The train is a mix of a classic train and a bullet train. And then the shuttle has those two huge bullet train parts hanging above the wings. Still love that toy, but I will admit, heavily flawed. Look at the most modern one that we're apparently going to get again as an 86 release. The shuttle mode looks like half of its shell has been blown off, you know? And then the train mode has this like weird truncated nose, and it doesn't really look all that good. I am just like sitting here wondering, like, why, of all the versions of Astro Train, why did the G1 toy have the best balance of any of these combiners? You know, the only flaw to that toy is the fact his arms are stubby, and the original prototype for that toy had extending arms that would have fixed that. So yeah, I keep wondering, why did the G1 toy do it better than literally everybody? Why has there never been a good Astro Train since the G1? Why is the G1 getting it done the best? What's the likelihood of a missing link Paradron medic? Probably pretty high, because it's Takara. They're going to want to get every repaint out of it they could. You know, like RCs inevitably get retooled into Nightbirds. It wouldn't surprise me if they had a Nightbird coming for that mold. But yeah, like if they're keep in mind, they did a weird yellow Sentinel Prime out of the Optimus. If they're willing to do that, they'll be doing Paradron Medic, no doubt, just for the sake of it's a repaint they can get away with. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and highlight this and point this out. But like, if someone says they're not interested in something, don't beat them over the head with it. I am the type of person where like, if you keep pushing it on me, and I know you mean well, and I know, yes, it probably is good, I don't care for Kamen Rider Gov. I have no interest, zero interest whatsoever in watching it. And if you just keep beating someone over the head with it, that's rude. And that's not taking their feelings about it into account. So I know you're trying to do good. I know you're trying to get me to watch something that you enjoy, but like, if I say I'm not interested, just please leave it at that. And that goes for literally anybody. I have a lot of friends where if you just keep beating it in, they're like, you should watch this, you should watch this, you should watch this. It completely turns them off from watching it. Don't do it. Don't do it. That's a courtesy to literally, not just me, but literally everybody. There's so many people who are like that. Just if someone says they're not interested, just accept that. Just move on. If you think Victory had an English dub, Death Cobra would be voiced by Dick Gaudier in his Serpentor voice. Back then, absolutely. If they had done it around the time of G1, and he is in Sunbow's Rolodex of phone numbers to call, absolutely. Because that's you gotta remember, even back then, voice acting companies did not really want to go outside their usual people. They wanted to keep employing the ones they wanted to always have a hold of, because employment will keep somebody around. So yeah, he probably would have. Rank these 5 hypothetical Transformer April Fool's jokes as funny, not funny, or I wish it was real. Clown-themed weaponizers with balloon animal alt modes. I'd say not funny because clowns can be terrifying, so that really depends on what you do with those weaponizers. A McDonald's collaborative multi-pack of generation-style changeables. Wish that was real. If I could get changeables with high articulation and more complete transformations, instant purchase. Which reminds me, I know they did Evangelion ones in Japan. I don't care about Evangelion at all, so I'm not interested. The micro head target master with a pretender shell Wheeljack joked about in the Marvel UK comics. That one could be funny. Is this weird fictional chimera that wouldn't actually ever exist? The first Studio Series weaponizers. The Last Night TRF Attack Bumblebee and 86 Sleep Mode Coordination Starscream. I don't know how they would be weaponizers. I guess you're just going with ones that fall apart. And Bumblebee would be funny for that. That's a funny April Fool's. Sleep Mode Coronation Starscream. The funnier one is to just fill the box with ash. That's the funnier one. Transformers Multiworld, a retro-style video game compilation inspired by the infamous Marvel comic issue After Death, where the 84-85 cast upload their minds into floppy disks that do battle in-universe video games. And if the Autobots win their matches, they delete themselves from the roster. If you cheated in the match, they know, and they will delete themselves from the roster. That one I would say maybe, I don't know. It's kind of funny, not funny, depends on what you do with it. With a new Robosend Bumblebee out, it got me thinking about all the technological advancements they made with each new figure and how outdated the original Robosend Optimus Prime feels in comparison. Do you see them doing a 2.0 Optimus sometime down the line? If they run it anyway like Masterpiece, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, it's probably going to be years off because they got plenty of other G1 characters to milk, but it's Optimus Prime. Same as Hasbro, same as Takara. Anyone who's doing Transformers will eventually want to do Optimus Prime again. Would you like to see the vehicle that Action Master Thundercracker had turned into a new Seeker alt mode? So the trick here, the more fun one here, would be if you do that vehicle as a brand new character and make it work similar to Dreadwing, where Action Master Thundercracker, regardless of what mold you use it for, had some way of combining with it in jet mode. So you still have some of that Action Master functionality, and then you just have him just be the big brute that backs up Thundercracker. That would be really cool. I don't know about new Seeker alt mode. You could, if you do Action Master Thundercracker as a completely new mold that just happens to look like a traditional Seeker in vehicle mode, You could do that vehicle, that mech thing of his. You could do that as like a full-on figure. You could do that. You could do that as his alt mode. That would actually be a good way of working them together. If he wasn't, oh my god. I just had the weirdest idea. And I kind of love it. If you could repaint or retool a HasLab toy, Saber becomes Action Master Thundercracker, and then the V Star is his alt, is like that vehicle mode's alt mode, and then instead of turning into the armor, he turns into the body of their combined mode. Oh no. Oh no. So do I know a customizer who's willing to drop $600 on a really stupid idea? No, Robot Masters. Someone do it to the Robot Masters. I wouldn't feel as bad that way. Do you think Playmates will make toys based on the other season of Power Rangers? Right now, as far as we know, they are not. Apparently, they have like a year and a half, 2 years or something worth of toys planned, and all of it. Oh, 3 years. It's 3 years because all they're planning right now and all they're doing, and they publicly announced this, is Mighty Morphin, because that's the nostalgia cash cow. Obviously, they're gonna do Mighty Morphin. And then I think, like, if they got around to other seasons, like, I think it'd just be the usual contenders of, like, In Space, I like them to do, what else? Trying to think really quick. RPM, they would never do it, but I would love RPM to get other toys. I still want an Engino G12, but a better version of the US one, I would accept in lieu. You trying to think of other ones like Time Force, maybe? Yeah, but we know for fact they're only doing Mighty Morphin, which is unfortunate. How would you rank the TMT movies from worst to best? I'll be honest, I didn't see the Bayverse ones, so I can't really include them, don't care. Also didn't see the new, like, CGI one, even though I heard that one was really, really good. I just never got around to seeing it. Of the ones that I have seen, which now is, like, very little now that I realize it compared to all this, the original live action number 3 is the absolute bottom. And then you'd probably, like, from what I've seen, I would put the Bayverse 2 as the next ones. And I only include those because I want to put a gap between number 3 and number 2, The Secret of the Ooze, because I really, really like Secret of the Ooze. I think there's a big gap between 2 and 3, even though it's, like, cheesy, corny. And then it'd be, after that, it would be TMNT, the CGI one. I really like that one. And then I still think the original live action is the best one. I think that's still the best. The effects are really good. The action's really, really good. I believe they are giant mutant Ninja Turtles. Yeah, that's a really good one. It's a really good one. What's a gimmick item you'd like to see in Kamen Rider? I'm still waiting on keys. Because we got those in Gokaiger, but I think they were so popular in Gokaiger to the point where, like, a decade on, they were still making new ones. I think that becomes so synonymous that it becomes difficult for Kamen Rider to take that. They also used keys for that weird Disney Henshin belt, so that also kind of cuts into it, but I would love a Kamen Rider based on keys. Locks and keys. What are your thoughts on John Cena turning heel on his retirement tour? About 10 years late, but better late than never. He's definitely putting on compelling TV. I'm definitely enjoyed it more than him just coming back and just being, like, straight-laced, white bread baby face, which is what Cody Rhodes is doing right now. So having two at once would not have been a good idea, but setting him up as a villain for Cody Rhodes to dethrone and take out at WrestleMania, perfect. And he's having a fantastic run as a heel. Feels like he's been getting out like 2 decades worth of pent up bad guy energy that he's never been able to express. It makes it interesting. Because I think if he stayed a babyface, it'd be a bygone conclusion. This makes it way more intriguing. In D&D, is it possible to cast spells with your character's mouth to make it look like they're breathing fire, frost, or lightning? It depends on the spell, but generally no. So there are spells where that would work. So like lightning bolt would work if you could flavor it that way to say that, like, as long as the DM's okay with it. If your semantic component is semantic being the movement, if your DM allows you to reflavor it into your own motions, which is what I get to do with Tora for scheduled conflicts, then you could get that. But keep in mind, you're going to build a weakness into your character, because if their mouth is somehow locked shut, they can't cast their spells anymore. Though, well, no, I was gonna say, like, there's spells that would, like, spells have verbal components too, but actually not all of them. Not all of them. So you would make it a little bit weird. For frost and fire, there is Cone of Cold, so that would work. Or Ice Knife, you could flavor that way. For fire, the only one I could think of offhand is Firebolt, and that's a level 1. That's a cantrip, technically. Like, you wouldn't, like, it wouldn't be that cool. It wouldn't be as cool as you'd think it would. So I think your options are very few in that regard. If you want a character with like a breath weapon, there's you can play a variation of a Dragonborn that would work for that. If Metroplex was shrunk down to an Optimus-sized bot for some reason, what would his alt mode be? Probably a bus, or like a bus or an RV. It'd have to be some kind of like big transport vehicle. What do you think is the likelihood of a missing Link Fortress Maximus? Probably impossible. Probably impossible. Is this like, here's the thing, it's not even a scale thing, because obviously they're G1 scale toys and they've reissued Fort Max. But like, what would the point of adding articulation to a toy that big be? You know, like, that's a lot of engineering. You'd probably just rather throw into a modern, like, second attempt at Fort Max, because I think even Hasbro has gone on record as saying, like, yeah, we'd like to redo that Fort Max. It's not a very good Fort Max. I think everyone kind of agreed on that one. Why don't we have as many construction-themed Transformers as we used to? Is the lack of legacy characters, repaint, retool possibilities, or lack of demand in the fan base? Obviously, like Constructicons, Grapple, like, you nailed it there. There's demand for that type of vehicle, but only as certain characters. You know, that's where the Constructicons kind of eat everybody's lunch. I like that phrase. You'll notice I've used it quite a bit. When it comes to this, I think it really does come down to just like a lack of potential repaints for a lot of these designs and characters. Because like the later ones from G1, your Quick Mix, your Wedge, they didn't get repaints or retools ever. They were one and done molds. So you don't really have anything else you can do with them if you did do modern ones, which makes it hard to get, you know? We got one Wedge, and they released it in Constructicon colors in Japan, I think, and that's all that they got out of that entire mold. You know, I still want a Quick Mix, because I had a Quick Mix as a kid. I don't expect them to get around to it for a very long time, however. You know, I'm hoping they do it before the budgets get so tight they can't put his Target Masters in anymore. But yeah, like, once you do them, what else do you do with them? You know, paint them in Constructicon colors, because that's just the thing to do with Constructicons. Now, I wouldn't be surprised at some point if they did Armada Scavenger, because you do have a repaint from him. He's got his yellow Energon repaint. And there's, oh my god, I've talked about this one before, and there's another usage you can get out of it, and I can't remember it offhand. And it's bugging. Oh, right. Boulder. You can do Boulder for the Rescue Bot toy. The color scheme would be mostly the same, but the physical design is spot on to do it. Let's see. Favorite Ranger that isn't Tommy. Honestly, I really liked Adam. He stuck around a long time. He had a long time for character development, longer than most Rangers. Because he's there for season 2 of Mighty Morphin, and then Ninja, and then Turbo, and then Zeo, and then the beginning of Turbo. He lasts a long time. Johnny Young Bosch was on that show, second only to Tommy himself. So that comes to mind. I really liked him. And then if we're doing Sentai, if I can include Sentai, I really liked Geki Violet. After Astral Agent Magnetar is released, so at least 2 weeks before this question is read, would you make a video compiling all of the teasers and trailers for it? It would be nice to have them all in one place. And yeah, to potentially have them in full, like, high quality, rather than like just being like smashed into my credits screen. We can do that. Magnetar does have an actual like VOD channel, which you can find on YouTube if you actually search Agent Magnetar. I'll probably throw a few unique videos in on that channel to kind of explain things. Like, I want a lore video there so I can explain his abilities, and I want there's a few other things that come to mind. I might start doing YouTube shorts as Magnetar on that channel if I can think of funny things. But video compiling all the teaser trailers, that's something we could do too. That's actually not a bad idea. For a Tears of the Kingdom crossover, how about a weaponizer that breaks down into a bunch of Zonai parts so you can make and build your own out of? I could swear we've had this suggestion before, and it's a good idea for a Tears of the Kingdom crossover. I don't think it'd be their first thought when it comes to a Legend of Zelda crossover for Transformers, but I like the idea behind that. Like, that would actually be very thematic. When playing Pokemon, do you always keep your starter in your team the entire game, ride or die? Yeah, I am absolutely one of those. My starter never leaves the team. Like, that's your companion Pokemon. That's your Pikachu. I'm not dropping that one for anything. I don't care how disadvantageous it gets for the Elite Four and Champion. I don't care how bad it is in the after game. I'm sticking with my starter. He is my boy, or she is my girl, depending on my luck. Okay, should Transformers dive into irregular vehicles as toys? Logging trucks, tractors, snowplow, submarine, ATV, etc. Variety would be good, but a lot of those would require brand new characters, So, like, we don't have, like, a good submarine Transformer. I can think of one, and it's a Cybertron Mini-Con. Logging truck, I don't know about that. See, like, logging truck might be a little bit too niche. That might be, like, a little bit too specific vehicle-wise. Tractor we've had, and if they wanted to do, like, a modern Voyager-class Thunderhoof, I'd be down for that in an instant. Snowplow they have done, and I know a lot of people who would want, like, an animated Sentinel Prime toy to come out. There's some in there that we could absolutely do. Who would you consider the most underrated 6th in Sentai? Man, how many do we go through here? How many can I go through here? And the hard thing is, like, I'm a little bit detached from Super Sentai even more than Kamen Rider lately, because, like, Sentai is so hit and miss. Though the new one looks good, I want to try the new one. Offhand, offhand, probably Gokai Silver, because I remember him getting written off for being annoying. But I feel like if you lived in a world with Super Sentai, Power Rangers, and you had the option to meet and join the team, you would be exactly like him. You'd be super excited for everything. And he is exceptionally useful to the team because he's the only one who knows all the Sentais. So all these powers that they're borrowing and barely know how to use, he's the one to inform everyone. I think he's like integral to that show, a lot more than people give him credit for. With a recent announcement of LEGO potentially doing Pokemon sets. Oh, it's not. It's not potentially. They are doing it. What do you think is the ideal way to handle it? Something like LEGO Creator 3-in-1 sets, how LEGO Super Mario Brothers sets are done, or make them minifigure, mini doll scale. Never, ever the way the LEGO Super Mario Brothers sets are done. I absolutely hate the LEGO Super Mario line. Outside of a couple of off releases here and there, like the oddball stuff they do. I've got the question block that turns into all the Mario 64 levels. That's super cool. That's a great use. I wanted the Nintendo. I really wanted the Nintendo. It's out of production now, and I could never swing that price point. I stare at things like the big, like Mario and Yoshi that actually has like the motion from the Super Nintendo game. That's cool. I don't know if I'd ever bother with it, but it's cool. But everything else, like the board game things that they were doing, like the brick built enemies, like the big electronic block Mario thing, I hate those. I absolutely hate those. I just want minifigs to go with my Sonic the Hedgehog collection. They did Sonic perfectly. Why didn't they do, like, I don't get it. It's frustrating. It's very frustrating to me. So I think the best thing in the world that they could do is to do LEGO Creator 3-in-1 sets where you could change them into their evolutions. If I could rebuild a Bulbasaur into a Ivysaur and then a Venusaur, that would be so freaking cool. You just use the extra parts in the smaller forms to form like decorative bits, you know, like little like flowers or like little beds of petals or something. You could do something to just make like scenery pieces. If I just want Bulbasaur with this little like, you know, like little tree of pink leaves or something, I could do that. You know, if you're doing like Charmander, Charmeleon, and Charizard, and then like the wings for Charizard have to figure out something else. It could be like a little hut for, you know, like you could like rebuild them to like a little hut for Charmander. Things like that come to mind. Like that would be super cool. I would love to see that. I feel like they're just gonna go the Mega Bloks route the same way. Like here's some smaller Pokemon kits that just here you can build the Pokemon. Here's like a little setting that they can exist on. I don't think anything would do minifigs because there's not a whole lot you could do, and you'd cut out so much of your potential if you did things at minifig size. Because then it'd just be buildings, and there's only a few buildings in Pokemon I can imagine wanting: a market, a Pokemon center, and a gym, and that's it. That's it. You do better to brick built Pokemon. Since you love Cybertron Hotshot, what other color schemes do you want, or do you think it would work then besides the expected red repaint of Excellion? We know Excellion is on the way. The first one, the only one else I could think of is the Shattered Glass Goldbug. That's a gorgeous color scheme. I'd love to see it on a toy. I own that Goldbug. It's over there right now. I think it's a beautiful toy that a lot more people should have the chance to buy. So if that came to retail, great. Do you think Optimus and Energon and Cybertron should have also gotten recolored power-ups near the end to match Megatron's? Not necessarily, because they both had other things going on. You know, like Optimus got his combiners in both of those series in order to power up. I don't necessarily think a repaint was necessary in that case. I think they did fine as is. Like, the only reason I would want them to get recolored power-ups is so I could potentially get better color schemes for them both. an Energon Optimus with matching drone limbs, so he looks more solid in full combined mode. Some other iteration of Cybertron Optimus Prime in different colors. A lot of potential there. What do you think will get more attention next year? The 30th anniversary of Beast Wars or the 40th anniversary of the 86 movie? The 86 movie, without a doubt. We know from the leaks that Beast Wars is getting technically 1.5 toys. Because we're getting a Beast Wars toy repainted into a Universe 1.0 character. And we're getting Quick Strike. But we have a subline for the 86 movie characters. We have more 86 movie stuff coming out for Studio Series than we do Bayverse stuff next year. Yeah, it's the anniversary of the 86 movie. You're gonna see plenty of stuff, and I hate that means that Beast Wars is gonna get overlooked. I hate that they come on their anniversaries hit the same years. It's not fair. Do you think Logos Prime should be part of the 13s / which of the canon 13 would you replace with Logos Prime? Not necessarily. I like the 13 that we have set up. I don't want to see, and I really don't want to see it like danced around too much, like throwing Logos Prime in there. I'm not really a fan of them throwing Zeta Prime into the 13 in Transformers 1. That seems like a step too far for me. Yeah, I like the original lineup. I think the original lineup is fine. If you want that like storyline of like the smartest 13 going insane, you can reassign that to one of the other 13. But I think we've already danced around who was in the 13 enough. I think it needs to be a static cast from now on. Now that they have like, here's the 13 as toys, I think it needs to just stay those 13. Do you prefer combining mechs that have a unified color scheme or ones where each component is its distinct color? So with Megazords, distinct color can work because they're not beholden to like one color for each limb. You can do like looking at the original Mighty Morphin. You can have like the two arms be the same color, and the only color differential is the legs. And he looks fine. He looks good. In some cases, yeah, you can make even like a traditional Transformer combiner, like a Scramble type combiner with different colors, and it looks good. Personally, for me, I do prefer more unified color schemes. It's one reason why I like Computron so much. All of his colors balance out. They're in that same vein of white with dark red and orange shades. I think he looks fantastic. And I think I like it because it makes him look more unified when combined. And it makes the team look more like they are their own unified team, even when they're not combined. It's just my personal preference. But yeah, I think I like a team that's matched better. I hope it's not too late. I'm reading it, so no. Why do you think we don't get any Transformer commercials anymore? For one, kids don't watch nearly as much TV as they used to. But also, it's not really effective anymore. I don't think it is. Like, I wish they would run on TV more and they do better ads. They do still do Transformer ads, but they're mostly just posted to YouTube and they call it a day. And they suck. Oh, do they suck. They completely failed to make the toys look exciting or interesting. Not even close to what we used to get. Oh, so yeah, I think it's mostly just because kids don't watch as much TV. Also, like there's weird laws about running toy commercials on TV during kids' hours, so it gets a little bit. There's a few dicey reasons here. If Death Cobra killed Hellbat in Transformers Victory and took his place, do you think the story would have changed much? Not potentially. You would do without the star stream of the team. And I think that's a flaw. I think that adds a little bit of spice to the Lyle Kaiser team in general. So I think that's the only thing you really lose. If anything, the team might have been more efficient with Death Cobra because Death Cobra wasn't out to take Leo Zach's place. Do you prefer Sound Blaster as an upgraded form of Soundwave or a separate character that looks like them? I actually think these days, I think I prefer them as separate characters. Make them related somehow. Like, okay, Sound Blaster is like an incomplete clone or something. That's kind of how they do modern Sound Blaster a lot. But honestly, I like Soundwave so much, I kind of find I don't want him upgraded. I don't want him like given like some separate form that that, you know, looks cool, but it's not Soundwave, you know? Like, I'm kind of done with the idea of, like, the repaint power-up. I'd much rather them just be their own characters, so we can have them both at the same time. And you can tell more story potential if Soundwave and Sound Blaster coexist. Same reason I want Megatron and Galvatron to coexist in something. Let's see, what's a current desk figure you have? Hope you're doing well when reading this. So current desk figures include, you gotta remember, I'm currently rearranging a lot of stuff on my desk because I'm switching to a new one soon so we can have a dual screen monitor set up for streaming as Magnetar. So once that is set up, we can start doing some PC games. I won't be stuck doing what I can play on my Switch. But right now, I still have Missing Link Bumble on my desk as a fiddle figure. Weirdly enough, right now, the original, like, War for Cybertron Generations Megatron, I thought of doing a video when the new Gamer Edition came out. I thought of doing a video of like, is the new Megatron really better than the old one? It's just going to be like a side-by-side video of the two in all their modes and just kind of talking about them. But I couldn't find them. I couldn't find one or the other. Anytime I found one, the other one got misplaced. So I never had both of them at the same time. And I think the topic is ice cold by now. Like, now we've already gotten retools of that Megatron. I think it's done. Would have been fun, though. Any thoughts about Samus's new powers in Prime 4? They look fascinating. They look more like they are for, like, puzzle gameplay elements, which, let's be fair, a lot of Samus's abilities are like that. It is weird that we keep adding things to her roster of abilities, you know? And it's one of those things that she's going to lose at the end of the game, obviously, because she's not telekinetic in any of the others. It should be fun, though. Definitely going to provide a different gameplay experience. That one I'm looking forward to a lot. If there was ever a Kamen Rider and Transformer crossover toy that wasn't a motorcycle, what do you think it would be? Like a Trideron from Kamen Rider Drive, that would be fine. You got to remember, when they do the crossover toys, they are very rarely going to repurpose existing characters. They're almost always brand new. So like they wouldn't use like. Okay, never mind. I'm rereading what you're learning. I'm off base here. But like Trideron as a Transformer, yeah, that one's obvious. Figure Arts Rider figure retooled into Kicker. Yeah, Kicker with Figure Arts technology would be funny. That'd be a funny like little crossover thing. I don't think they do Kicker. I'm not sure who they would do. I think I've said it before, and it's my favorite answer because I said this answer on the TFW 2005 podcast for one of the listener questions. Because someone asked like what crossover Kamen Rider thing would be, and Vangelis and Aaron just came up with motorcycles and trains for Den-O, and then I'm the one that's like, Kabuto, Gatak, and Kickhopper as the Insecticons. The Insecticons retooled to be those Zectors, and then vaguely resemble them in robot mode. Simple answer. Vangelis was highly annoyed that they didn't think of that. And I still love it as an idea. Favorite version of Optimus and Megatron, character and story-wise. Story-wise has to be, for Megatron, has to be Beast Wars, because he's just brilliant villain, super charismatic, and just like always calculating. For Optimus, probably animated. I thought it told a far better and more interesting story to see like a young Optimus who wasn't the top of the food chain, who hadn't been fighting for 4 million years already. I thought it gave him like room for character growth, and that's the one thing we never really get from any Optimus Prime, because they always have to be the top leader character that's been a general in a war for 4 to 9 million years. You know, to see an Optimus Prime who has room to grow as a character is special. And I really, really liked that in animated. This might be redundant because I haven't read the comics, but do you think there ever be a story in which Optimus willingly turns his back on the Autobots to join a higher power? Like Unicron, for example. Yes, it's inspired by John Cena's heel turn. Why is John Cena heel coming up in a Transformer Q&A video? Not that it has to be Transformer based. I like you guys to answer everything. I guess it doesn't surprise me from the guy using Tommaso Ciampa as his icon. You'll apologize. My voice is trying really hard to give out right now. I'm trying really hard to keep it at bay. I don't think you're ever going to see a story like that, because that is the antithesis of Optimus Prime's character. To give up on his Autobots? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It's not Optimus Prime at that point. As a Sonic fan, I'm curious to know if you've been following the IDW comics, and if so, what do you think of the newer characters introduced therein? Tangle, Whisper, Surge. Do you have any favorites? I do like a lot of the new characters they have come up with. Like, I feel like I've taken to them way faster than, like, some of the others from previous comics. Hang on. Okay, so I had a sinus infection last month that is still, like, bugging me from time to time. And it's really messing with it. Sometimes it messes with my throat and I have no choice. I gotta cough it out. I did that because this is gonna be a 2-hour video. I don't want to try and dig up the one like 10-second gap of audio where I muted to cough. But to answer Xenot's question here, Tangle and Whisper are both favorites. They are my new favorite. Like, since Owl House is done, they are my new favorite lesbian couple. Even though the writers can't publicly say that, the writers just call them very, 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 very good friends who hang out all the time with each other, scream or cry when they are apart or something happens to the other, or hold hands while the lesbian colors are in the sky behind them. Yeah. Surge is also a really fascinating character. Like, I really hope she gets the therapy she needs, because I want her to break free of that programming of I have to hate Sonic. I kind of want her to have that redemption arc. I feel like that's what they're eventually gearing toward, but for now, she's just a really different type of Sonic villain. Like, comparable to Sonic in the way Shadow or Metal is, but way more emotional than both. And that works wonders. Do you think an A10 Warthog jet, the jet mode of Cybertron Wingsaber, would be a good alt mode for Megatron if it were made a design of him as a flying Cybertronian? That's actually not a bad idea. It's not a fighter jet, it's an attacker. A fighter is something meant to actually engage other aircraft. The A-10 is designed for the exact opposite. Yeah, I believe the A-10 Warthog is just a bomb dropper. if I remember right. Like, it's not meant for, like, direct confrontation. That said, yeah, similar to the jet mode of Cybertron Wing Saber, I wouldn't be opposed to that because it is a very, very powerful looking jet if you have the right design and if you exaggerate it the way that Wing Saber's exaggerated it. It's not a bad idea. Not bad at all. What does the term plastic quality specifically refer to? Nobody ever seems to get into specifics. So, essentially, plastic quality comes down to, like, think of anything. Like, think of, like, toilet paper quality. Like, think of, like, how, like, thin, like, even cheap, like, even if it's 2-ply, how thin and, like, unpleasant toilet paper feels, like, if it's cheap versus the more expensive brands that are, like, patterned and quilted and 2-3-ply, like, and they're just, like, super comfortable. Same concept. You can, like, plastic is like a chemical production. You can make it cheaper or you can make it higher quality to where it is weaker, brittle, weaker, more brittle, or sturdier, more flexible, more whatever. So it's like any other product. You can mix it and create it to be cheaper, or you can use higher quality material, a better mixing process, etc., to make it higher quality. So that's your plastic quality thing. Now, Hasbro claims they're basically using the same plastic they've been using for 40 years. I really think it just comes down to it's a lot thinner than it used to be. That's why it feels different. But I do think it's mostly the same stuff. It's very subjective. I've had people tell me, like, oh, the plastic quality on this feels terrible, and I get the figure in hand, I'm like, it's fine. It's fine. Belly aching. Like, if you want to experience plastic quality, go to a dollar store and buy a toy. Any kind of little, like, robot toy or anything. If you visit the right type, you can usually find knockoff Transformers or something. That'll, you can feel when plastic is bad. What's the randomizer algorithm that you use for random review? Okay, so I put all the potential things into the algorithm. The algorithm itself looks through all of the videos that I have done, all the random reviews that I have done within the past 5 years, and it comes up with a mathematical formula to actually approximate what the most likely video I should do next is, based solely on exactly what I have not done recently, what has worked well in the past. And then I throw all of that out and just do what I want. That's the algorithm. Admittedly, random review isn't as random as it used to be. It's usually just the new Transformer on the block. But that's just kind of what my review series is called now. Would you ever consider crossover between Skeleton Warriors and Inhumanoids, the evil that lies within? I will be honest. I'm not up on my Inhumanoids very much, so I can't really speak of, like, a crossover between the two. So I'm a little off there. I apologize for that. Like, Visionaries might be a cool mix for Skeleton Warriors. Like, they both have, like, the sword and sorcery mixed with the tech thing going on. See, so I feel like they missed an opportunity with Star Saber being a HAZAB. I understand why they choose the route. But they don't make any real serious feel like retool them into a new Thunderwing. So if they ever decide to take another jab at Star Saber, they can retool them into a new Thunderwing. What are your thoughts on the idea? Kind of in the same boat of, like, how they would do Pretenders, like, as we kind of talked about that earlier. I think Thunderwing is a significant enough character. I don't want him to be a retool of somebody who already exists. I want him to be a new mold. And that is going to limit what we can do with him later on, but I think that's a sacrifice you need to make, because Thunderwing needs to be his own thing. Let's see, what animal do you think would have been great fit for RID 2015's Animalistic Decepticons but never did? What animal do you think would have been a great fit for 2015 animalistic Decepticons, but never did? Man, I did a whole video based on these guys. Can I remember any of them? Can I remember any of them? I could have done with more aquatic. Like some big bruiser based on an orca would have been fun. That would have been a little bit more interesting. Any kind of terrapin? Like I needed a turtle of some kind. That would have been nice. I don't know. There's a lot of animals that didn't get used. There's a lot of animals that didn't get used. Where's my giraffe? Where's my giraffe that turns into a crane truck? Then you just get a Decepticon who's just got like a completely normal body, but he has to be animalistic, so his head is like way up here. Oh, that would be funny. That would be so funny. I want that so bad now. Who's the scariest Transformer in your opinion, barring Sunder? Oh, no, you're gonna take Sunder out. IDW Tarantulas is pretty terrifying. We'll give him. I will stick with IDW. You won't let me do Sunder, but I'll give that one. The last version of oh my god, my brain's frying. It's starting to get late. The last version of what's his name now? Breakdown from Prime, where he's just like a zombie with a dead human stuffed in his chest. That was scary. That was genuinely scary, especially if you were a kid. That would have been terrifying. Let's see. You've done many full fiction rewrites and story concept videos. All of them so far have been incredible. Thank you. Do you have any reservations, issues, caveats, etc. for viewers using said concepts in part or wholesale in our written fictions? I think as a content producer, I pretty much feel the same as I always do with anyone who wants to use anything. Like, ask permission and leave me a credit in whatever you use. So like, as long as you acknowledge that like you're basing it off of my idea, I'm fine with that. I mean, obviously, there's plenty else to do there. Like, obviously, a lot of the ideas have a lot of legs on them that I can't get into on this channel. So if someone wants to expand on them, yeah, it'd be fun. What is the most unhinged or left field third party release you would imagine? And non-mechanical, MX-Loud, Symbiotic Titan, Bronze Giant from Hero A6, Trash Machine from Deltarune. Yeah, okay, so Transformers and non-Transformer mechs not allowed. What's the most unhinged or left field third party release you would imagine if we stick to Transformers? It's like a proper scrounge would be hilarious with like the wheel alt mode. He is just the wheel. In that same sentence, Jetfire's what father? What did he call him? Like Jetfire from Revenge of the Fallen had someone in his family who was just a wheel. You could do that too. Just a stone wheel that transforms into a Decepticon. Who else? Well, like what would be like stupid for third party to do? Because like third party does just about every stupid thing. Like just like out of left field, like completely weird. Go back to the idea that we had before. Like there's been so many third party Lio Kaisers. Why is one of them not been done into Rescue Force? Why has that not happened yet? Like, finish the work that was started by Hasbro Europe. Do you think a Transformers musical could work? Not a full one, but like a musical number for like Soundwave and or Blaster would be hilarious. Or Skybite. Skybite is a poet normally, but he was a singer in IDW as well. I would also go with him. If they did a Transformers Thunderbirds collaboration, would you buy it? Probably not. I'm not really huge on Thunderbirds. It's a very old classic franchise that, like, I remember in the 90s they tried to make it work again, and it just never caught my interest. With the announcement that Mattel has gained the Masters toy license for DC and thus the imminent end of McFarlane's DC multiverse line, how do you expect this to affect your shop or toy stores like yours in general? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. McFarlane's stuff is so hit and miss. Like, I know a lot of people who are glad to see that line die. I'm glad to see that line die because doing 7-inch action figures of superheroes is stupid when we have decades worth of Marvel Legends that they should be scaling with. I should be able to have Batman Beyond and Spider-Man 2099 on the same shelf that actually match, and that would make me deliriously happy if I had that. But no, we don't get that because McFarlane just has to be 7-inch. The only way it's going to affect my shop is I expect a lot of people to be selling off their multiverse stuff when the new Mattel stuff comes in. That's about all I'm really expecting. And then for like normal toy shops, they're not going to be affected. It's just new product to them. Favorite tokusatsu actors or actresses? I will admit I am not up on their names. But I know Gokai Yellow, Mao, I think is her name. Stage name anyway. I want to say she got into a whole bunch of stuff that was really cool. And then, oh, what is the name of Decade's actor? I don't want to get it wrong, which is why I'm not saying the half of name that's popping into my brain. I love what he does, like talking to other actors, like he has sung the Decade theme song himself. And he's always eager to come back and play Tsukasa again. Like, I love how into being Kamen Rider Decade he is. And the fact that he went on to be like a really good character in Garo. Yeah. Really like him. What would the Transformers franchise be like if it come under Bandai Namco ownership? Would it become more successful than before, or would it just get screwed even more? I don't think they would treat it as a full series. I think if Bandai Namco got their hands on the Transformer license, I think it would exist purely as an occasional high-end nostalgia piece, and that's literally all you're going to get. I don't think they would give it any kind of focus or attention to where, like, you have a new TV series, you have a new toy line, here's the new movies. Like, I don't think they would do any of that because it's not their flagship franchise. It's a gigantic franchise, but similar to Hasbro getting Power Rangers, I don't think they'd know exactly what to do with it, and I don't think they'd be interested in doing anything with it. Sadly, you have to pay for Artificer if you make your characters online. Well, good thing I use books. Or I can just Google for all the resources online for free. You don't need D&D Beyond. You don't need D&D Beyond. The D&D team has been like the management, the ownership of the D&D team has been screwing up so bad. Don't buy D&D Beyond. Don't pay for D&D Beyond. Print out a piece of paper, look up all the material yourself online for free, and just enjoy playing D&D. Which starter are you choosing for Legend ZA? Chikorita, Tepig, or Totodile? Probably Totodile. I've never been big on Tepig or Chikorita. I'm not a big fan of either of them, but I like Totodile. I like Feraligatr, the big Godzilla looking boy. If they get new evolutions like they did for the last Legends game, maybe. I know they're getting megas. I know they're absolutely getting megas because they're not going to put starters in the game and not give them megas. Why did you choose Magnetar for the name of your VTuber instead of Pulsar or Neutron Star? So, when I came up with Magnetar, the first thought was the shooting star theme. That's where I wanted his design to come, to come through on. When I thought of how to incorporate that more into the design, I decided, like, instead of, like, I didn't want him to be too Kamen Rider is the thing. I wanted him to be inspired by, but not derivative. So he doesn't have like little gadgets he pops in and out. So instead of like Gaia memories or something, I thought, what if he can just catch shooting stars? And depending on what that shooting star is made out of, that lets him create different forms. I thought catching a falling meteor would be a really cool visual for a power up. And then I come up with the idea of like the kinetic energy powers up the suit, so that's how he refuels his energy levels. So when I thought of that, I thought like, okay, well, he can't just stand out in a field for hours on end at a night waiting for something to hit his hand. No, like he's got to be able to just like do the Kamen Rider thing and just get what he needs on the spot, right? So I decided, like, what if he could just pull them? There's a lot of rocks floating around Earth. What if he could just pull one down anytime he needed one to catch? So Magnetar, for those who do not know stars, Magnetar is essentially a neutron star that has an incredibly powerful magnetic field. It's a rare type of star, but when I researched that and saw like, oh, it's a star with magnetic properties, that's perfect for my trick for Magnetar, for like my VTubers like power up method. So he became Astral Agent Magnetar. I've put way too much thought into that character, by the way. If you haven't noticed, I've put a ton of thought into how that character works and what to do with that character. Do you think the new Digimon story game will be as successful as the last two? Probably. Two of them worked. If two of them were successful, probably. And now we've got a brand new Digimon anime coming out, so like the interest is going to be higher. Yeah, it's probably going to work. I got an idea of doing a multiverse story of Transformers inspired by No Way Home and Into the Spider-Verse. Shockwave created a super space bridge. There's not a question here. Explosions happen. Characters from other shows arrive in the main universe. Story selection of alternate versions will be limited. Only have 3: Megatron, Beast Wars, Armada. I mean, what you're doing is basically Robot Masters. That's basically what they pulled, right down to the number of leaders they had. Yeah, like this is, like it's fine. It's a fine idea. Like you are pulling from Spider-Verse, so like that you're doing something like kind of been done. Will we ever see new versions of Euro G1 characters? Like I really do hope so, because like I know a lot of people who want Thunderclash. I would love a brand new boss, and I feel like what if at any time they feel like doing a drift again, boss just seems like the repaint to do. And yeah, and then you've got like Stalker and Skyquake. You can tell they were going to do a Skyquake. I remember when that Legacy Skyquake came up, and they saw that it had the weird thing they did with the Prime toys, which was like G1ify them, and he had elements of the original Euro G1 mold into him, like the chest window, and it just looked like, oh, they're going to eventually retool these into the original Skyquake. It never happened, even though it's specifically designed for them to eventually do that. Frustrating to say the least. So yeah, I really do hope they do, because there's a lot they could do with the Euro G1 cast, and there's some they could do with existing molds. That Trailbreaker toy, you could absolutely do. What was his yellow truck's name? It was Turbomaster later on, but I don't think that was his actual name. I can't remember offhand. It's been a while since I had to think of him. Let me pitch you this idea. Giaxis, voiced by Jeffrey Combs. Like, just imagine Prime Ratchet saying, "We had order, structure, a perfect, flawless mechanism was destined to reshape the galaxy. Then you came, old, flawed, an evolutionary stage we had risen far beyond." I don't like Prime Ratchet's voice for that. Well, maybe. Maybe. Well, I'm playing it again in my head. If he could do it just like a little bit deeper, I would go with that. That's actually not a bad casting choice. My friend is writing a Transformer storyline that's supposed to be a sequel to one of the shows. Since you are working on Magnetar, I was wondering if you had any tips you had about writing stories and producing them in some form of media, most namely time management. Time management's always the tricky one. Like, you always try to figure out, you always just like, you've always got a little bit of time to spare here and there. Just like, the biggest thing I would say, like, if you're writing a story, you don't have to do it chronologically. Because as you come up with story ideas, you are going to come up with the moments. You know, when I think to Magnetar, we are currently in chapter 0 of Magnetar's story. We're just establishing his origins. I know the big events of chapter 1. I have a vague idea of what I want to do in chapter 2. I've got one huge moment in chapter 3. And I'm now starting to figure out chapter 4 and potentially chapter 5 after that. Like, you're going to come up with those pieces, and there's no shame in just going ahead and writing out those pieces and then filling the gaps in as as it comes to you. Because sometimes writing it out brings out different things than just keeping it in your head. And you'll find that, like, as you're trying to create that connective tissue, things are going to change. And there's nothing wrong with that either. You know, if you're writing it out this moment and then get like over here, and this moment is there, it's going to put a challenge in your head of like, how do I get these two moments to connect? And that's going to start forming more story ideas. The best thing I can tell you is just, and when it comes to time management, just write. Like, you don't need to like have like, oh, I'm going to like sit down and just like, I'm going to sit down. I cleared my calendar. I'm just going to have 5 hours to just sit here and write. No, just whatever little time you get, even if it's just half an hour. Even if it's just half an hour, just sit down and do it. Instead of trying to find like perfect moments, just do it. That's the idea with anything creative. Just do it. What niche character do you want to finally have a figure? Mine would be Paddles. See, the thing is, we've gotten so many niche characters at this point. I'm running very, very low on the ones I would actually like want new characters for. For me, it'd probably still be Rapido, because that was my toy as a kid. Like, I love G2 Rapido. I would love to see a modern one on him, and I don't count the Bakon one. I want something that looks, I want something that's like more true to the character. Do you prefer the way Hasbro handles Headmasters and Power Masters or the way Takara does? So I assume you mean storyline wise. Yeah, Takara better. I don't like the organic aspect to them. I think that adds like a lot of like weird questions. And I don't think it generally works. Like, oh, well, you got shot in the head, so Spike's dead. Sorry. Yeah, you're just a useless body now that somehow is still functional, but can't do anything. Yeah, I like the Transtector idea better. I don't like the idea of like mixing the organic characters in. I always think like when you form a headmaster or a target master, if you form a head or an engine, what happens to your poor knees? Because they're either bending sideways or they're bending backwards. And they ain't good. Might be a hopeful thing, Buzz, or any chance for a Studio Series 86 Blitzwing. At this point, absolutely. Absolutely, there's a chance for an 86 Blitzwing, because literally, if they've been in this movie for even a couple frames, they are getting an 86 release. The concern is I have that concern as well. The fact that, like, they've done that mold Every time they've done that mold, it hasn't sold well because it is a very flawed mold. I hate to admit it, but it is. It looks beautiful in robot mode on my shelf, but to play with that toy is flawed. I found that out buying Overcharge. Oh, and guess what? Overcharge went on sale like 2 weeks after I bought it. Of course it did. Controversial question. Might want to think, if that's your thought, you might want to think otherwise about posting it. In the near future, should Hasbro quit making toys for collectors and mainly focus on the kid demographic? Since the prices on plastic toys are going up, it's expensive for parents to buy it for the kid. By the way, I'm still a Transformers fan. Still I'm an adult. I don't know when I should quit the hobby or not. If you're enjoying the hobby, don't quit. Change your collecting habits to fit your budget and your lifestyle, but like, there's no like time limit on how long you have to be a fan. I don't care if you're an adult. I'm an adult. You know, I've been a Transformer fan my whole life. I'm probably going to be a Transformer fan, you know, the rest of my life. But that doesn't mean I'm always going to be buying every toy that comes out. Doesn't mean I'm going to watch every show. You know, at some point, it might just not be a thing for me anymore. No shame in that. I'm just not as diehard of a fan as I used to be, but I'm still a fan. As far as like, should Hasbro quit making toys for collectors? Absolutely not, because the kid market is shrinking and the collector market is growing. And the collector market is where they can actually get away with the prices they're going to have to start charging in the future when toys inevitably get more expensive. Kids aren't going to be able to afford $30 for a deluxe. You know, that ain't going to fly. That's never going to happen. So no, like, they can't quit making toys for collectors, because collectors are, you know, the ones that are, they're like half the revenue these days. Couldn't do it. What's your choice for a hypothetical deep cut character for a HasLab / Small Titans figure? Hypothetical deep cut. I think that gets into the grandest thing. We've kind of had the grandest talk before, because I'd love to see that toy redone in some way that gives him more to do than just be a big box that falls over to transform. For like, and that would kind of work for Small Titan, or if you want to throw Sky Gary in, maybe a HasLab between the two. Deep cut characters for Titans. I'm trying to think, like, I would love to go super deep cut and give me like Dark Nova. Like, give me like the true final boss of G1 as a Titan, with like a little Megatron riding. You open up the chest in the robot mode, and there's like the remains of the original Megatron still like barely functioning. Like, that would be cool. Actually, no, I take it back. Head. It has to be in the head, because that's where the Megatron was. What would you have changed about Magnetar if you could? Also, will it be getting sequels? Well, I feel like Hayden wrote this before it was well known that Magnetar was going to be a VTuber. I will say, I know what his 2.0 is going to be. So technically, yes, there is a sequel on the way, but that's years off. We got plenty to do before then. If there's anything I could have changed about Magnetar, it would have been, honestly, just the way I hyped it. I wish I had produced different hype material. Because like, there's a span of like 6 months where I had like the same like, this has been blocked by Triad thing at the end. The only thing I would change beyond that would have been like, I was so hard set on like getting this character out when everything was done and perfect that I ended up delaying it way too often. It's like, truth be told, the model itself was done in 9 months. And then I still sat on it for like another, 5 or 6 months before I actually debuted it, because, I just had to have everything. I had to have all this in place first. But no, I could have been at this for like half a year already. So like, timing. The thing I would have changed is timing. Everything beyond that, I've been thrilled with. I still love the design. The artists that I picked have been fantastic. Everything there, I think, has been going really, really well. Which do you prefer to play for D&D, 3.5 or 5e? Truth be told, I've never played 5e. Or not 5e. I've never played 3.5. I know there's a lot of people who swear by 3.5. I don't care. I personally don't care. I like the system of 5e. I have fun playing 5e. So that's the one we are going to stay. That's where I like to play. What are your thoughts on if Saban back in the day was able to keep Power Rangers when Disney bought out lots of those brands in 2001? Honestly, the way that they were handling it, I don't think Power Rangers would have lasted as long as it did. I think it would have gone under a long, long time ago if Saban had never dropped it. Wild Force switching to Fox Box instead of ABC Family, then to 4Kids, then to CW 4Kids. That meant Power Ranger would wind up with CW by 2008. So you see all this dancing around that you're doing here. The show would not have survived long enough to get to 2008. Switching over these channels and constantly switching times and places to watch, this kills kids' shows. Absolutely kills them. So, no. If they had kept a hold of it and they had to pass it around to different like channels to watch it on, I don't think it would have survived. Even if they had gone to New Zealand earlier to cut the filming cost, I don't think it would have survived as long as this. Not jumping around like that. If a future Monstructor figure had to be a retool, would you prefer him to be a retool of the core class Dinobots or a retool of a hypothetical Abominus set? If it has to be a retool, the truth is neither of those is a good fit because Monstructor is designed to be Dinobots from the it's designed to be made of monsters. Like the core the core class Dino Force, you couldn't retool into Monstructor, even though the engineering is there, because the designs are just not even close. But neither is Abominus. Abominus isn't close either. I guess you'd have to just. I guess I would prefer Abominus. It'd be a crazy amount of retooling, but like that's closer than the core class Dino Force would be, and I would rather Monstructor be large. That's honestly. I'm heading to Japan in a few months. You know of any cool Transformer related I should check out? Transformer related things? Honestly, I'm not up on what is like touristy or like good to spot in Transformer wise. I'd say check out a Mandarake or two if you're in the area. Because that's your used toy Mecha. Also, I'm very jealous. I want to go to Japan so bad, but the 17-hour flight frightens me. What Transformers do you see as future HasLabs? We have kind of talked about this ad nauseum on the channel, so I will keep it brief. Energon, Optimus Prime, and Wing Saber, I think, is like a perfect HasLab set. If we're talking about combiners, I think Monstructor is a great choice. I think the trio for Big Powered from Zone is a great choice. So, I'm going to leave it at that because, yeah, that's ground we've treaded on this channel many, many times recently. And I haven't bought a Transformer in over a year, but I'm still invested in the brand. I want to start collecting him, but I don't feel like it. What would you do if you were in my situation? I wouldn't collect. Simple as that. If you don't feel like it, it's because nothing they're putting out right now has actually hit the sweet spot. Nothing has like pulled you back in. So my advice to you, don't force it. If nothing is catching your eye, nothing is convincing you to spend money, don't force yourself to buy anything or think that it's wrong that you haven't bought anything. We all enjoy the brand in different ways. So just wait it out. You know, if you stay invested in the brand and what it's doing, eventually something will drop that appeals to you. You know, we have that brand new like MPG Optimus coming out that's like super different than like the previous MPs. You know, maybe that'll do it for you. I don't know. So I'd say just like, if you don't feel like collecting, you shouldn't be collecting. Honestly, it doesn't mean you can't be invested in the brand. It just means that the right thing hasn't come around yet. So I'd say wait till the right thing does. What PBS edutainment shows did you like as a kid? Okay, wait. All right, here we're gonna date myself. Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego? Probably one of the best kids game shows ever, even though the prizes usually kind of sucked because it's PBS. You don't have the budget for that. In a similar vein, for edutainment, one of the best shows is Where on Earth is Carmen Sandiego? Because to disguise education as the characters just being like really smart, you know, plays so well to having your main characters be detectives. You know, it's one of the best. And it's a fascinating show. It's a really good show. And Carmen is a really charismatic villain in that show. So yeah, like Carmen Sandiego tends to do really, really well. Like it turns out it's actually a really, really good franchise. Can't really think of any of the other like PBS shows that I would say. Like, I mean, Sesame Street was around for everybody, so like things like that. In the D&D campaign, schedule conflicts. What episode should I start on? Watch the first few episodes, stopped, and now it's at 75 episodes. Yeah, we're over 80 now. The hard part is that Firemaster, there isn't a jumping on point for a D&D campaign series online. You just have to start at the beginning. You are going, like, no matter where you jump in scheduled conflicts or any of the others, you know, whether it's like Dimension 20 or Critical Role, you're going to be hopelessly lost. You know? So, unfortunately, I can't tell you what episode to jump in on because there is none. You just got to start from the beginning. Simple as that. Otherwise, you're not going to know what's going on. What is your favorite of the Ninja Turtle alike cartoons of the 90s? The knockoff ones. So, you know, that's talking like your Toxic Crusaders and your Biker Mice from Mars. I think the one I always went to was the Wild West Cowboys of Moo Mesa. It's a very, very silly one, but I kind of like the characters and the story. It's one of the very few Western things I kind of liked. Hasbro decides to give it one last try. They'll make one final season of Power Rangers. What would they adapt? Zenkaiger, Dawn Brothers, or King Oger? The thing is, I don't think any of those would really work. I don't think any of them would really work. If they had to adapt one of those three, probably Zenkaiger, because at least that means they're selling toy robots, right? And that's right up their alley. You know, and the toy robots transform. That's perfect for them. They wouldn't do Dawn Brothers because the theme is just way too Japanese for most American kids. King Oger, bugs are not really like in style right now, so like you'd think of King Oger because the toy, like the storyline is cool, but like a bunch of bug toys are not going to do well in the US at the moment. Is Monster Hunter Frontier canon? I don't know. Do you think any of the Legacy Generation Redux, like the soon coming Bumblebee movies, do you think we'll get any Legacy Generation Redux, like the soon coming Bumblebee movie studio series? Like, do you mean, will we get redos? We talked about the Fort Max they want to redo. That one wouldn't surprise me, but I think that's a long way off because we know I'm pretty much expecting Liege Maximo to be the 2026 Titan at this point. As far as like redos of existing things, I'm trying to think of like who came out that was just like horrible and needed a redo. I would love a redo of Shatter. I would love a redo of Shatter. The car one specifically. I think we will eventually get those. Because there's always toys that could go back and improve upon, and also major names. It's an excuse to run Bumblebees and Optimus Primes again. I know you mentioned some of your videos of Transformers you regret selling, of having, you feel regret for getting rid of any Transformers or Transformers animated line. Pretty much all of them. Because they are all fantastic toys. I really should not have sold them off. Just at the time, it was like, I think I'm done with these. And as I go back, I think, I really miss messing with these. Like, the animated Ultra Magnus is a toy I've always really, really loved. I wouldn't mind having that one again. What else? I went back and got the Bumblebee. I have the Takara version of the Bumblebee, so I get to enjoy that toy again. The Lockdown, I really regret selling, because that's expensive to get a hold of now, and it's a really good toy. There's a bunch. I could go on. There's a lot of that toy line I wish I still had. What nebulous terms in the toy collecting sphere confuse and befuddle you? I mean, as far as confuse and befuddle, not a lot. Like greeble, kibble. I understand where those phrases come from. The only one that ever really bothered me was them trying like chug. I hate the chug abbreviation, and I hate them trying to continue it by adding letters of existing generations toys. It's not like you're trying to view it as all in one thing, and I understand why, but like, give it up. You're trying too hard, and I just hate how it sounds. Since Hasbro still thinks Energon is a risky part of the brand to touch, do you think Energon Optimus is still viable, either a mass retail or a future HasLab? As stated just like 10 minutes ago, I think he's perfect for a HasLab along with Wing Saber. Looking at those Cyberworld toys, do you think Hasbro did market research on designs with actual kids? I don't think they did. I don't think they did either. I think they threw together the quickest thing they could because they canceled a toy line abruptly. I think they were expecting to get 3 years out of Earthspark because they usually tend to get 3 years out of their kids' lines. So that's, yeah. Favorite Siege figure and why is it wrong? I don't think I can call a Weaponizer my favorite figure from Siege. Man, okay, how quickly can I remember the entire lineup of Siege toys, because so many of them were redone in Earthrise that it blends into my brain. Wasn't huge on the Tetra Jets. Wasn't huge on Megatron. Optimus was pretty good. I actually really do like Siege Optimus. Is there anyone else? I'm trying to think. Because those lines blend together. Those two lines in particular blend together so hard. It's very hard for me to remember specific Siege figures. Yeah, you'll have to forgive me. Like, my brain is like blanking on that toy line at the moment. Let's see. With their cool hats and deploying partners, is there something that would need to be changed from Breast Force to include them in the RID 2015 universe, or would they just fit fine? So, considering they are much more animalistic than most Transformer characters, yeah, like, they actually would have fit in very nicely in RID 2015. You know, the only thing that would stop that is Hasbro really didn't want to spend the budget on fully realized combiners at the time. At least not in that line. What is the point in changing a character's alt mode when they might as well be a new character? Inspired by your bewilderment over Cyberworld Mirage. So, yeah, a lot of it is just for the sake of keeping trademark alive, but also there's a lot of merit in just trying different things with old characters. Like, okay, fine, Mirage shouldn't be a jet, but your alternative is to make him another F1 car. And to be frank, I've had so many F1 Mirage cars. I've had the G1, I've had the classics, I've had the generations. What would be the, to your point, what is the point of constantly releasing the character with the exact same alt mode? Why not switch it up from time to time and try to see if you can get something a little bit more interesting? That gives you more options, gives you more chances to do things. I think Megatron stays fresh, a lot fresher than Optimus Prime, because his alt mode constantly changes. He's been a gun, he's been a tank, he's been an Osprey, he's been, multiple times now. He's been a spaceship, he's about to be a cannon. Things like that. It keeps it interesting. It keeps the character alive just by like basically giving him something new to do, giving him a different taste. If Blue Sky closes for some reason, would you return to Twitter/X? I don't think I would have a choice in the matter, because I need to have some kind of social media so I can get messages out to my audience. But the state that Twitter is in right now, I have no intention of using that site or pushing my audience toward that site. To be frank, I tend to keep a very liberal audience because I'm a very kind of accepting person. But if I'm creating a community that welcomes welcomes those people in, I want them to have safe places to interact with me, and I don't think Twitter is a safe place for them to interact with me. You have stated a few times that you feel like a lot of the reason for the failure of the most recent Transformers movies and shows lie with Paramount. However, Paramount has had great success with both TMNT and Sonic the Hedgehog. Why do you think they are able to succeed with some franchises but not others? I think with Transformers, it's just exhaustion. Because Paramount's been handling it since 2007. That's longer than they've been producing things for TMNT and Sonic the Hedgehog. So I think it's just probably execs with Paramount just being bored of the brand. Like it is, and I feel like because the movies started slipping and losing money, when they were still doing like advertising juggernauts, I think there's just a very low priority on it now. I think they're just not trying. With TMNT and Sonic the Hedgehog. Sonic the Hedgehog especially is their new darling. So, that one does not surprise me in the least. That one they put effort into because it's the new thing making the money. If Sonic 4 ends up starting to lose them money, the way Transformers 4 started slipping price-wise, only by a little bit, but it did start slipping at 4, then who knows? They might grow cold on that one too. Back-to-back Paramount questions. Do you think Paramount should do the same thing they did with TMNT to Power Rangers, since they have the new movie rights to make a movie with and have actual teenagers play the Power Rangers? I do think you need actual teenagers playing the Power Rangers because that's supposed to be the whole thing. They're supposed to be relatable to kids, and they're supposed to be characters that kids look up to. Kids don't look up to parents most of the time. They look up to teenagers. They look up to the older kids, the big kids, the cool kids. You want Power Rangers to be cool kids, so they are appealing to young kids. So, yeah, that would work better for me. Do you think we'll ever get a Studio Series Gamer Edition Sentinel Zeta Prime toy from the High Moon Studios game in the future? Honestly, everything's on the table at this point. Thinking about it now, I don't think we saw Gamer Edition in the leaks. Very little. If we did, very little. It's mostly Studio Series next year is mostly 86. So I'm not sure the Gamer Editions are working out, right now Ratchet, I found tons of them at my Target. A lot of them went to the clearance section, and they still have some left over after the clearance ended. And now Ironhide's coming out too. Also, those toys have not gotten the best reception from fans. You know, the Ratchet's okay. The Sideswipe is okay. The Barricade is not as okay. I think the Starscream is decidedly okay. I think the Megatron is not okay. I really think the Prime is the only good one out of the whole subline so far. So I would kind of expect it to get cut at this point. Favorite Armada Autobot as a character. Starscream joined the Autobots for a minute. That doesn't count. What is it? Trying to think through all of them right now. I honestly want to say Scavenger. I like his US story. Now, Scavenger's story is different depending on whether you're watching Armada or Micron Densetsu. Because in the Japanese version, the original intent was for him to have genuinely sided with the Decepticons and then decided to leave them. Whereas in the American version's interpretation was he was a double agent the whole time. So I kind of see that. Like, I liked his characterization. Like being like the drill sergeant to Hotshot, even when he was on the Decepticon side. That was interesting. So I liked him as a character. In Transformers Prime, why can't any of the Autobot weapons hurt Megatron or Shockwave? Power. Pure power. As simple as that. And I think that's the important thing. Megatron and Shockwave should be very powerful and intimidating characters where most of the weapons the Autobots fire do not work on them. You know, it should be only the heavy hitters, you know, your Optimus Primes, your Ultra Magnus, that can stand up to threats like that. Even though Ultra Magnus lost every fight he participated in. He got kicked around a lot. Ultra Magnus got kicked around a lot in that show. Also, I'm glad you enjoyed the MP figure. If I remember last month's Q&A, that was Masterpiece Skids. I'm actually kind of curious. If you make another question for this month, Simple Man, let me know which version you went with. I'm curious. With Sonic and Monster Hunter collab coming out, do you think that we'll see a Halo collab in the future? I'm going to say, you know, at this point, anything's likely possible. Like, yeah, like I'd say, yeah, like at this point, they could do just about anything they want. It's really up to whoever has the Halo toy license playing ball at this point. And frankly, I don't know who that is at the moment. Because I'm not a Halo guy. What do you think the inevitable Pokemon collab figure is going to be? Parentheses, I'm not a Pokemon fan. I'm not entirely sure there's going to be one, because Nintendo owns a stake in Pokemon, and Nintendo is incredibly picky when it comes to what happens with their IPs. It's the same reason why Optimus Primes, same reason why we got a Mega Drive Megatron, a Genesis, but we did not get a Super Nintendo Optimus Prime, because Nintendo doesn't play ball on those kind of things. We got a PlayStation 1 instead. I don't think we're going to get Pokemon as a Transformers collaborative. I think that one is out of reach. I honestly think that's just, that one I think is going to be the one that's just like, nope. I don't think that one's going to happen. But, like, if there was one, jeez, it would probably be some iteration of Pikachu turning into most likely like a Volkswagen Beetle. Because the Pika Bug back in the old day was like the promotional vehicle. So that would work. Okay, what do you think of this idea? Nishi Sentai Toku Major. 2-2-1 Task Force Special Ops Ranger. There are two teams, a 2 and a solo hero. Tokume Red, Tokume Blue. Sure. I might have to instate a new rule. Please don't run your fanfic by me. Like, I'm here to answer questions from my audience, not proofread. Like, and not help you with your fan fictions. Like, I'm not sure this is relevant to the Q&A's intention anymore. Okay, like, because this has been like the 4th time I've had to do that in this Q&A, and I feel like every answer to that is like, sure, go ahead. Sure, go ahead. So, like, if it's your idea, you don't need my approval, and you don't need to know what my opinion of it is. If you want to do it, if you want to write that story, please go ahead and do it. Do you think that trans tech will ever be represented in a Transformers toy line? Honestly, at this point, I don't think so. I think at this point, it's just lost media, as much as lost as Transformers media could get. I would like to see it at some point. I would love to see it at some point, but I think yeah, I'm not sure where you'd even fit it in anymore. Hi TJ, when it comes to Super Sentai Power Ranger seasons, do you prefer seasons to have a more animal focused theme in Mecha like Wild Force and Jungle Fury, or more vehicle focused theme like Turbo and RPM? I find that I don't really have a preference when it comes to the vehicles and the design, because like you're talking to someone whose favorite series is Bokenger, which is all vehicle. However, second to that is like, well, Gokaiger second to that, but like somewhere in my top 5 is also Geki Ranger, all animalistic. I'm not really gravitated to a Super Sentai or a Kamen Rider series based on like what their what their theme is. Design, yes. Theme, no. So like really like animal focus or mecha focus, vehicle focus, I don't really care. I don't really care. As long as it's just hitting the spot for me. You have made a video on the Megatron versus Frieza death battle. What about the other 3 Transformer death battles? So, I did touch on Galactus. I thought I touched on Galactus versus Unicron. So, it's sitting in my to-do list for Patreon requests. I am going to be doing my thoughts on all 4 of them, just to kind of cover the whole thing. But no, we're gonna do Rainbow Dash and Starscream 2 because the request is for all of them. So we'll do the joke one as well. It's very late right now. I am looking at a 2.5 hour recording, and every time I scroll down, I'm looking at this little scroll bar on YouTube on my window here. Every time I scroll down, I'm hoping it stops scrolling because it means I'm at the end, and it just jumps back to the top. Just jumps up again. What is a hot take you have about anything? Like pineapple should be on pizza, that kind of thing. It's weird right now, but like the way things are on the internet these days, I feel like the hottest take is like people should just be happy and mind their own business. That shouldn't be a hot take, but like that is not what the internet is interested in doing. I don't know if I'm not one to have hot takes. You know? I'm not one of those. If Hasbro, Takara, or a third party made a IDW Devastator with Hook as a leg and Prowls an upper torso, would it sell and would you buy it? Your clown performing Shakespeare made me laugh. I wouldn't buy it myself because I'm not all that attached to IDW Devastator. I personally don't think it would sell. In particular because like Devastator is just one of those concepts that you really can't mess with because it is so popular, and it's one of those things that goes beyond just normal Transformer collectors. I had someone argue with me over this, going like, you know, talking about like the HasLabs. Like they were trying to get into an argument with me over Blue Sky. Like they were trying to bait me and I wouldn't take the bait. But they tried to argue with me like, well, all of those could have worked at retail. Like they're doing Devastator at retail. So that proves they could have done all these other HasLabs at retail. No, it doesn't. Because you're talking about the most iconic combiner in Transformers. Devastator goes beyond just what hardcore fans want, which is what all of the HasLabs are. Devastator is one that a lot of casual Transformer fans know. My dad, the one who got me into Transformers in the first place when I was a kid. He doesn't know who Deathsaurus is. He does not know who Star Saber is. He doesn't know Lio Kaiser. He knows Devastator, though. He knows Devastator. That is a like, whether or not you think so or not, Devastator and the Constructicons are a casual Transformer fan character. Same realm as Optimus, Starscream, Grimlock, Bumblebee. It's just one of those that people outside of the core fandom know. So, yeah, like, I don't think you can meddle with it. I don't think it would sell. Favorite Transformers Prime character. There's a bunch of them. There's a really good series. I think Knockout's very high on that list. Ratchet's probably up there too. He might be my favorite interpretation of Ratchet. Which Lio Kaiser do you think looks better? The TFC Toys Hades or the official HasLab? Kind of leaning toward Hades because I think he looks cooler. You're asking third party. I can't remember which one Hades is. I personally I really like how the HasLab looks. You know, I don't want stylized. I want a proper Lio Kaiser the way that my brain perceives him. Which Kamen Rider do you think has the best final form? Decade, Complete 21, or Legend, Gorgeous? Personally prefer Decade, Complete 21. For final forms, Decade, Complete 21 is like almost the bottom of the list for me. Like, I understand, like, if it's your preference, but like, I absolutely hate how Complete 21 looks. And I apologize for that. Legend, Gorgeous out of those two would be the preference there. Off the top of your head, what would be the strangest crossover with Transformers? Like Oscar Mayer using the Wienermobile. I've been asked this before and I don't have the answer because all of them are possible now. We've got Stranger Things as a Transformers crossover. We got Sonic the Hedgehog. At this point, the strangest thing would be Nintendo because Nintendo doesn't want to do that kind of thing. Like, that's the closest I can get at this point to, like, weird. And it's not even weird. It's just incredibly unlikely. Which Transformers and or Web Diver character would turn into a burrito or taco? What? What? This is not the question to get 2.5 hours into the recording. This is not the question to get right now. I genuinely have no idea. I feel like I shouldn't even humor that because it's a question with no answer, with no discernible answer. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm gonna skip that one. Let's see more facts, questions. Let's see. What are your thoughts on Hasbro doing the real Ghostbusters Ecto-Glow Hero set for San Diego Comic-Con exclusive? Will you be buying it? It's cool to do. I mean, it's cool to do. I like the retro stuff. I'm not big enough on real Ghostbusters to do San Diego Comic-Con stuff for it, though. Like, I didn't even get the real Ghostbusters toys that got reissued normally by Hasbro. And those came into the toy shop as a trade-in. I could have just walked home with those. Yeah, I like the Ghostbusters. I like the real Ghostbusters cartoon. I don't need to have toys of it, though. What is your least favorite Transformer that you would be pissed if you were stuck being their partner? I mean, I think we're talking character-wise here. Okay, so, like, this is one of those, like, sit and think, because now I have to, like, comb through thousands of Transformers to figure out someone that, like, who would I hate to be, like, stuck with all the time? Who would get on my nerves the most? Maybe Blur. Maybe Blur, and trying to keep up with his speech pattern the whole time. What in front of you would make a bot? I do have a soda can in front of me because I need a little bit of. I generally I avoid sodas nowadays, but I let myself have one if I need a little bit of caffeine. I need a little bit of caffeine after stream today. My stream deck is on my desk. My desk right now is mostly just spare Transformer parts, a small stack of Pokemon cards from the last thing I opened up. My bottle of sinus medication. Maybe that. Which Transformers? Which Transformers IDW romance is your favorite? That's tough. I like. That's actually tricky. I love the long will they won't they for Tailgate and Cyclonus. It starts the one part about that, and I will agree, it does start off kind of abusive because Cyclonus really has to grow as a character first. So I feel like he does have to go through that moment, but looking back on it, it's kind of rough. But I do really, really like their romance. Geez, they were really good at telling those. I mentioned Anode and Lug a lot. I love how completely unapologetic those two are. Can you guess what I was going for with my username? No, I cannot. In a free-for-all, which G1 combiner? I don't mean to be rude skipping it. I don't mean to be rude skipping it, but like gimmicky stuff that's not relevant. It's that's not asking me. This is the kind of thing I'd rather avoid on these Q&As. Kind of the same as the fanfic questions. Okay. In a free for all, which G1 combiner? Which G1 combiner is coming out on top? Superion, Defensor, Computron, Ride and Land Cross, Road Caesar, Volcanicus, and because I can, the Beast. The Beast actually died pretty easily, so you can't use him. But also, the Beast and Volcanicus can't coexist because they're both Dinobot combiners. Out of that list, you were very smart in choosing this list as you left off the more powerful ones like Lyokaiser and Predaking. Out of this list, I would want to say Computron because he's got the he's got the ability to calculate across all of these as in a fight. The only thing that would stop him is if things were happening a little bit too quick. But if the other teams are all dogpiled on top of each other, Computron just needs those 5 to be in their own thing, and then Computron just needs a minute to step away from the brawl, figure out the strategy, and then I think he's got it. It's like Batman. Give him enough time to calculate, and he's going to beat anybody. Have you ever seen anyone point out how some actual Transformer toys seem to mass shift? For example, G1 Sunstreaker's Lamborghini mode is smaller than Sideswipe's, but Sunstreaker's robot mode is bigger than Sideswipe's. I mean, it's not actual mass shifting, it's just placement of parts that is different. But no, I have not really seen anyone point that out. And it's not the worst observation either. So it's interesting because yeah, Sunstreaker and Sideswipe are supposed to be the exact same car. But obviously, yeah, very different when you get them transformed. That really just does come from the fact that Sideswipe was developed much later, so they figured out a few things they hadn't with Sunstreaker. Simple as that. And we are finally at the end. All right, what relationship did you think Deathsaurus and Megatron have? Deathsaurus is probably loyal to Megatron until Megatron vanishes, and then he's one of the more powerful ones that are kind of stepping up in his place. I don't think he's power hungry, but I do think he is advantageous enough to fill the void. Beyond that, he was probably very high up in the Decepticons. You know, something along the lines of a general for Megatron. and just somewhere else off in the universe, just ruling over like something else, Decepticon in the galaxy. I don't think they would have like anything like terribly antagonistic toward each other outside of maybe Deathsaurus potentially being power hungry. I don't know. It starts getting very weird because Deathsaurus is canonically way more powerful than the original Megatron. Yeah, that starts getting weird. You get into weird like G1 scaling. It's like Deathsaurus is way bigger and way more powerful than Megatron. He has no reason to follow him. Yeah, that one's tough. That one's actually tough. I might have to do a video just on that. And that is going to do it for this month. Over 2.5 hours this time. It's very late. I'm going to go straight to bed after I hit this button. But thank you everyone for asking a question. As always, if you have a question, I gave you the rules at the top, so you're free to leave the question down below. And thank you very much for watching, sitting through it the entire 2.5 hours. Thank you very much. I will see you next time. Hello everyone, I am Astral Agent Magnetar, a Tokusatsu VTuber, and I am streaming 4 times a week over on Twitch, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday afternoons, and a special late night one on late Friday/early Saturday. So come watch, come hang out, and let's make an impact together.